And as soon as I began getting clean cannabis that did not have any of that stuff in it, I stopped having episodes of myalgic encephalomyelitis. I stopped having chronic fatigue episodes. And it's been since 2016 since I've suffered anything like that. And all I did was start using cannabis regularly and in various ways so that I would, as I learned, get more benefit by choosing the correct cannabis for my needs.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, where we speak the language of cannabis freely and uncensored, while educating our audience on safe use of this live plant therapy. You should know what's in your cannabis, what's good and what's not, because cannabis does not come with an FDA stamp of approval, yet. The information you will find here comes straight from scientists and clinicians, doing the work and reporting their findings in reputable outlets. Hopefully, we can inspire you to research the facts as we know them today. Cannabis is an amazing alternative in health remedies, with the potential to alleviate typical disease problems and troubling side effects, even those caused by synthetic prescriptions. Here now is the host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast. She is a 21st century cannabis shaman, not a doctor, not a scientist. Raised by nuns and wolves in the verdant cattle pastures of the Oklahoma oil fields, here to amplify the truth of this great big story of cannabis in historical, political, scientific, and spiritual terms, so you can make educated decisions about the medicine you choose to ingest. Please welcome Honey Smith Walls.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast. I'm going to celebrate and light up if you don't mind. You know who I am, Honey Smith Walls, an educator in cannabis and your host for the past 6 years of the Cannabis Truth Podcast that's come out weekly. I'm really proud of that. I've been interviewing all kinds of people, tons and tons of medical professionals in the industry, advocates like myself. You know, I'm not a doctor or a nurse or anything. Hang on. Hold on to that thought. It's just my little naughty, dirty onesie pipe, just a little glass cylinder with a little teeny tiny bowl right here that you just shove a little bud into. For those of you who might not have ever smoked before. And I do this instead of trying to roll a joint because my hands are so arthritic and they hurt and I'm, you know, all that stuff. So, so I'm here to help elders like myself. I'm 70. I'm here to help elders understand how to use cannabis effectively and safely so that you don't waste money buying something that isn't right for you, that you might not know or understand how to manage or handle, and it may be the wrong delivery method for you. If you don't know what that means, it's not the vehicle that gets you to and from, it's the way that you ingest it, the delivery method, whether it's by using it in a pipe, vaporizing it, which is different than smoking it. Vaping is different than smoking. And, or using a tincture or eating a gummy. All of those have, or any other ways, transdermal patches, vaginal and suppositories, and on it goes. Now there's nanotechnology that allows cannabis compounds to go into drinks effectively. So, woohoo! The industry is just growing and growing and growing by leaps and bounds, and there's a lot of legislative ups and downs and roller coaster rides going on in there too. So just mentioning that the history of cannabis is ancient. it's been here longer than humans have. But it was humans who understood the value of the plant and turned it into the first farm and the first commerce. So, here we go, civilization around a plant, right? It wasn't the only one, but it was one of the major ones. Cannabis has a planetary history that is so rich and beautiful. You are just not going to believe your ears when you begin hearing the beautiful, long, rich history of cannabis. I want to remind you that it is one of the safest plants on the planet, safer than peanuts. Never a death attributed to cannabis on the planet. Never. So, in the past 6 years, can I just take a moment to mention some of the people who've been on just in 2024? Dr. Rushi Mishra Sharma, a wellness guide. God, she's marvelous. She was amazing. Dr. Philip Blair, my friend, an MD. He's a retired Army colonel, but more than that. Through his cannabis research, he became involved in terpene research, and he discovered the amazing effects of beta-caryophyllene, which I will not live without anymore. So, Dr. Philip Blair, thank you. So love you. So love the product. Can't live without it. Trying to talk about it more and more and more so that more women have more alternatives to managing the suffering that goes on in our lives. So, okay, thanks, Dr. Philip Blair. Jana Champagne, oh my glory, an amazing nurse in the green industry who has just helped so many other medical professionals come into this industry through her fantastic educational programs. So thank you, Jana. You've just been so instrumental in helping people understand. I love seeing you in our monthly webinar conferences at Dr. Sulak's Healer webinars. Those are fabulous, and your questions and insight are always so valuable for everybody. So thank you for all that work. Dr. Leah Johnson, I adore her. She is a PharmD in the Southwest, and wow, is she a crackerjack of information. You just love sitting there soaking up all the stuff that Dr. Leah Johnson gives to you. I mean, it is fascinating, scientific, medical, helpful juju. I just can't describe it all. She is an amazing woman and darling, and I've had the privilege of hooking up with her one fine day in Cocoa Village, and we had some champagne and chocolate croissants, and it was just glorious. Anyway, that was fun, Leah. Thank you, darling. And I look forward to being able to do that again someday. Let's make it happen. Anyway, I love serving with Dr. Leah with a platform to help us all understand the true science in cannabis. And oh my glory, speaking of science in cannabis, if you haven't listened to Dr. Anna Schwabe, light up like a fire when she starts talking about cannabinoids and plant compounds and everything that they do and why they exist and why they work so well in us, and on and on and on she goes. She really gets excited, and so do I when I listen to her. So it was thrilling to have Dr. Anna Schwabe on the podcast over the past year. We've had others too, like my plant caretaker here in Michigan, plantsoverpills.com with a Z, I might add. And Mr. Feeney just takes care of all of our needs if we don't grow our own but want the real plant, and so he serves as a licensed caretaker. That's a whole different program when you're in a state like Michigan. And again, the rolling legislation, every state's different, so we just have to figure out, how the laws are. Ooh, I'm trying not to say something naughty here. How you're managing around the cannabis laws in your state in order to find relief in the medicine that will be a huge relief to you. So, who else was here? Laurel Ann Porter, oh my Lord, a musical shaman who you just can't forget. The peace that she brings and the helpful womanly juju that comes through her to you and the epiphanies that come along with it are just absolutely divine. So, my show is evolving into something more than just Cannabis Truth. It's the divine feminine has come and is guiding me. And so we are doing a lot of womanly 101 work to learn how to eliminate our own suffering. And women have been culturalized into suffering. So, and mostly don't understand how to use thought discipline to control the emotions, to control the physical dis-ease that we suffer. So, like I said, the divine feminine has come and it looks like she's here to stay. Thank you for that, Laurel Ann. You were a huge influence on this aspect of my show. Amy Carter was here, and she's been leading the charge for Courage in Cannabis, a series of books by Dr. Oh my glory, I cannot say her name. It escaped me and I did not write it down. Well, it will come to me. In the meantime, gosh, I'm such a blabbermouth. I've got a podcast and I talk about cannabis all the time, but now all I want to talk about is beta-caryophyllene and your product because it has given me my future back. I want everybody to know about this because, for heaven's sakes, I've never seen anything like this product in the prescription world.
How does it compare with cannabis?
I'm quite surprised. Oh, I'm quite surprised because cannabis didn't do it for me. Beta-caryophyllene did. And if you know the real truth about both products, they're both terpenes. Cannabinoids are really terpenes. I just am surprised that even though I had all the compounds in cannabis, it was a concentration of beta-caryophyllene that really did the trick for me.
This has been fabulous, and I really appreciate it. I want to get it out to everybody, too. I want to get it out to the whole world, as a matter of fact. It has so many mitigating factors for all the stresses of life and pain and diseases. It is unbelievable what the spectrum of care that it can provide.
Hey, we're back, and I just wanted to thank you for hanging in here with me, for talking about all the things that, for listening to me talk about it anyway, all the beautiful guests that I've had on just in the past year, we have had so many amazing. Dr. Jean Talleyrand, did I mention him? I see him at the Cannabis Public School every Sunday at noon Eastern on a LinkedIn Zoom meet that's been going on for years now. And that's fascinating science with lots of medical professionals in that arena too. Like I mentioned, the healer seminar that happens once a month and has been going on for 5 years that I've been going to it. So monthly. And so that's part of my continuing education in the cannabis world, in the science industry of it. Because, you may not be aware of this, but there are so many industries that can blossom from cannabis. Cleaning up Chernobyl is one of them. Filtration is what I'm talking about for not only soil, but also water filtration. Amazing, huge industry that we need to master. And also the cloth industry and the paper industry and the plastic industry. Anything plastic that you can make out of petroleum, you can make out of cannabis. And so, fuel, energy, all that sort of thing. It has yet to be proven to be, what do I want to say, efficient fuel energy for cars. But the cannabis seed is a whole food. So if we had to, we could subsist on just the seeds alone. But I want to remind you that, people would not have been able to travel from continent to continent on boats without canvas and rope, both made from the cannabis plant. And once the Europeans got here, the settlers farmed cannabis to build our first navy. They used cannabis for their clothing, for their bedding, for their pleasure, for their medicine, because there are hundreds and hundreds of compounds inside a cannabis plant, and each one of those compounds has some glorious medicinal value. So now the clinical trials are starting. See, we've been forbidden to do any research, to utilize the plant, to look at it, research it, talk about it, discuss it, or teach it in any school. And it was ripped out of our pharmacopoeia 100 years ago. Now, I don't know when we gave over our medicinal powers from the doctor's knowledge and science to our political legislators, but that is exactly what has happened. And so, since they are in our doctors' little black bags, this is how societies globally have had to suffer without the use of cannabis in our lives. Before 100 years ago, we'd used it always for all kinds of things. And I just mentioned a whole bunch of things. But we also used it as medicine. And even a lot of our American pharmaceutical companies like Eli Lilly and Parker and all those other guys, they sold cannabis in little brown bottles, elixirs, tinctures. They sold it in little brown bottles with their name on it. Cannabis. Indica, it would generally say. I think. Indicas. Anyway. But all of that was taken away from us, and it was all through and because of political shenanigans. So, we can talk about all that history later. You wondering about how I got here? Why I'm in this industry? Did I tell you I'm 70? Yeah. And I'm just getting started. I found myself in a situation, a womanly situation, where I lacked the knowledge to know what to do for myself. I couldn't get or find outside help, and I just began suffering through menopause. It's a common problem. We don't understand the issue. We don't understand that it's a lifelong condition. And we've been forbidden to try to alleviate the symptoms of womanly stages of menopause for well over 100 years through gentle plant therapy. So it's no wonder that our society is a nervous wreck and chaos of the mind is normal. No wonder. Anyway, now that I've put a few of my own little numbers together and added them up, I am absolutely compelled to tell everybody I can about the success that I have found by using gentle plant therapy, cannabis, in many different forms, for many different things, for a long, long time. My podcast has been going for 6 years. I was using cannabis to bring myself up out of the symptoms of myalgic encephalomyelitis. It's a pretty devastating immune disorder. And it's like, the granddaddy of IBS. So it had me nearly 1 foot in a wheelchair and the other foot heading for the grave. That's how it was happening. That's how it was rolling. And although my spouse was a teetotaler, he never, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't do anything. But boy, was he fun. And I adored him. And he was the most intelligent man on the planet that I'd ever known. Anyway, when I began using cannabis to try to alleviate some of the symptoms that I was suffering from myalgic encephalomyelitis, and it helped. That long term is what we used to call chronic fatigue, and it just devastated my energy to the point that after a few years of me trying to lift myself up off of the couch, and I'm here to tell you that when you have an episode of chronic fatigue, it can hit you, everybody's different, but it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't even feed myself. My husband would have to feed me on many, many occasions. I stopped doing anything in the house and stopped feeding my own critters and feeding myself and feeding him. I stopped running errands and going to the grocery store. I stopped going to band practice. I stopped singing. I stopped practicing music at home. I didn't bother moving from the couch. I'd just lay there day and night. And of course, weight gain and muscle atrophy and feeling even more awful and, more IBS distress and lots more anxiety because you never know if this shit's going to come up out of you or not. Is this the way it's going to be forever now? That's the way you start thinking, and it's scary as hell. And so in comes, depression with that anxiety. And you still can't lift a finger. So when you find relief from not only the pain of muscle atrophy and tummy and bowel issues and headaches and nausea, God, constant 24-hour nausea, from trying to take all those prescriptions your doctors are giving you to try to figure out what the fuck's the matter with you. The nausea is just unbearable. The brain fog is just unbelievable. You just don't even try to think anymore after a while. You just live in the haze. So when that breath of cannabis sort of parts that brain fog for a moment, instantly alleviates the nausea and tells you you don't have to worry about those muscles twinging when you try to get up, or your calves cramping, or your shoulders feeling frozen, or your neck in spasms. All that just went away with the first 1 or 2 puffs for me. So, yeah, I got high. Admittedly, so I enjoyed getting high. It took a lot of that devastating fear away. I just didn't feel afraid when I was high. But I could get real paranoid while I was high because it was illegal and I was using street weed. And so, although it was giving me immediate relief for a couple of hours, it was also giving me poison from the toxins and the pesticides and the herbicides and the fungicides and the molds and the mildews. God knows what else was in that stuff. Because it was just square grouper street shit, It came in a baggie and it was so filled with stems and seeds and chunked up and squashed and pressed, and you had to pry it apart with a, pair of pliers. But still there was something in it that said, I can fix you, I can heal you, I can help you feel better. It called to me. I knew it from my youth anyway. My sister turned me on when I was 14 and I loved pot. But I didn't know it was real medicine until I was 65. I didn't. 64, 63, about that age. I didn't realize. It was then that I was going through all of that period of trying to find something that would give me relief from all of those symptoms. And cannabis did that for me. So when, when you find something that gives you relief and yet you're still going down, 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 down. It's, you're asking yourself questions. What's going on here? What's going on? What's going on? And then serendipitously, some little commercial came on television telling me about a school that was about cannabis in nearby Orlando. I picked up that phone and called that school and found out everything I could and enrolled, and that was the beginning of my cannabis journey and education, to find out why it made me feel good, but why I was still getting sick. And they said the magic words: contamination. You don't want contamination in your cannabis. Ding, ding, ding-a-ling. And that's all it took for me to answer the feminine call, to find out why cannabis was helping me so much. And as soon as I began getting clean cannabis that did not have any of that stuff in it, I stopped having episodes of myalgic encephalomyelitis. I stopped having chronic fatigue episodes. And it's been since 2016 since I've suffered anything like that. And all I did was start using cannabis regularly and in various ways, so that I would, as I learned, get more benefit by choosing the correct cannabis for my needs and using it correctly. I wasn't interested in being high anymore. I had too much going on, and I needed a clear mind to focus and to understand the science and to be able to relay it. And it was blossoming. These incredible creative ideas were blossoming. To do a podcast, I could do a podcast and spread the word, because COVID had come in and it had stopped me from doing a circuit that I had created in the county park system, and I was doing that live for a while. You guys are going to have to wait. I got my 5 little herd over here wanting their treats. You want to see how this happens? Come here. Come over here. Who's over here? Okay. Pearl. There's Pearl. Okay. Who's next? Come over here. Teddy bear. Teddy bear. Okay. Come over here. Who's next? Precious. Kitty. Kitty Precious. Good girl. Okay, who's next? Here, Paco. Good boy. Here, Millie. The last one's for you. Here you go. You're welcome. And that's how it happens with my little herd. So now you understand why and how I got into becoming an educator in cannabis. And I began taking all of these courses from scientists and doctors who were already ahead of me, and, studying and researching the plant and its compounds, and doing their own little clinical trials with their own, a lot of them were clinicians and had patients of their own, MDs and DOs. And so, I've just been following them and asking them to come on the show, and that's what's been happening. And leveling up, I have noticed there is this feminine movement going on, and I've always been involved politically in feminism and trying to balance this violent world with more feminine peace. And this feminine voice has been calling me and calling me and calling me, and I found this Women's Business Academy and jumped into this network of women who are like-minded healers like myself, trying to pass on feminine wisdom in a way that we can all network and collaborate and change the paradigm in how we communicate and what we think is really valuable. And to women, that's relationships and being able to communicate. So, and to be understood and valued. So there's a lot of feminine wisdom that I missed from my grandmother and my mother and my sister, and I have found that being in this beautiful collective of business women, each one of them shamans in their own way, they're their own they're in their own industries, but we all have this like-minded goal. This feminine thing is calling us. This feminine energy is calling us. And so we have been collaborating in one of the social networks, well, in Facebook, in our own individual groups, and holding these summits and festivals and workshops and collectives and groups. All of them are free. But we've been collecting speakers to talk to the attendees who come into our different groups. So I have not only become a global transformational speaker in the past year, going on these other women's stages. They and many others came on my very first stage at the Holistic Relief Summit, which I just held in December of 2024. Now I'm going to be holding many more, but that made me an event host, bringing you the expertise, the feminine expertise of what I myself have been missing. That womanly wisdom that, helps me understand more about the world that I live in and the relationships that I'm seeking to have successfully balanced. That's what I mean by successful, balanced. So, with peace and grace and respect and love, those things that should lead a relationship. So that's what I've been doing. That's been a major impetus in the past 6 months in my life, plus getting the book, Healing Beyond High. Cannabis Truth is the name of my new book. It's in the production mode. It's still going to be a couple of months because that's how long it's taken me, and I'm just going to have to give myself grace. I wanted to have it done for you, by now. But this is just the way it rolls. So I'm not going to stress over what I couldn't do, but I'm definitely going to enjoy what I have done, because it's a long list. And that's just outlining some of the highlights. Our mission has grown for the Cannabis Truth Podcast. It has grown from not only cannabis safety and effectiveness into this healing, specifically into the feminine, holistic relief. I expect to continue speaking on my sister's stages, and they will come and join my stage as well. Speakers are needed for the next summit, the Holistic Relief Summit 2, which will be coming up more than likely in February. I'll keep you posted. There's a waiting list. And if you want the link to the speakers wait list, then holler at me. Find me on Facebook in the Holistic Relief Summit. And I'll give you that link. So, while I've been speaking on all of these stages globally, helping people, now Teddy, helping people transform their lives from pain and suffering into peace and joy. Let me take care of little monster over here. He's just having a hideous time. Teddy, one more round. And then that's it. Okay, there's for you. There's for Teddy. There's for Paco. Come on. And good. And there's for Pearl. And there's for Millie. Good job, Mills. Okay. Sorry. So while we've been transforming lives around the globe with cannabis information, that's what I want to do also, is broaden that information into Womanly 101 information. So I'm still niching down into the feminine, but broadening the message. See, because all of these other incredible people, these medical professionals who are gracing my stage, these scientists in cannabinoidology who are gracing my stage, these doctors of osteopath, these MDs, these scientists and advocates like myself, plus all of these other feminine life coaches who help us heal sexually, who help us grow in our autonomy, who help us understand how to manage what's going on upstairs and emotionally. I just didn't get all that information, not from my mother, my grandmother, my sister, not from any of my preachers, that's for sure, not from the nuns that I went to school with, not from the friends that I kept. I didn't start finding this stuff out until recently. And that's why I'm using this platform to help you find it too. All that stuff is free for the attendees. There's a small admin fee for the speakers if they want to come into this warm audience who is here to find you and what you have to say so that you too can build your list, and nurture these clients into your own circle. But there's no sales that happens at the Holistic Relief Summit, only epiphanies. So, as I often say, come for the peace, but stay for the epiphanies at the Holistic Relief Summit, a free Facebook group where you're going to find all kinds of beautiful, womanly advice on how to manage any kind of suffering you've got going on, girls. So, at least that's my goal, that's my mission. All right, what else? Yep, mentioned all of that. When you come in as a speaker, you're coming into a warm audience. You're coming in to collaborate with other speakers who are also bringing their friends, because that's part of your responsibility, is to bring your friends into this space And that's the only responsibility. You don't have to have a huge list like many other stages that you might have to consider your options for. And you're also joining a group of very, very like-minded business women here to build the list, here to create real business friends, here to level up your business skills and your speaking skills too. And you will enjoy tons of free support. You will learn new marketing skills, especially new in the social marketing arenas where those fundamentals change on a regular basis. So I've got new intel on that, and I'm sharing it with my speakers to help you increase your visibility on Facebook. So we've got all kinds of support for Facebook networking and collaborating, and it's fun, and you will love these women who become not only your business sisters, but your deep personal friends. And so, Millie, behave yourself, please. I want you to know that I've created promotional graphics that will be free for you to use that are both individualized, and there will be group graphics. So all you have to do is grab them and throw them up in your own social media circles and use them. All that work is done for you. And there will be marketing content that you can use. You don't have to sit there for hours and think up, your own content. It's all provided for you. And there are lots of live hookups with me and all of the other speakers, as well as recorded sessions that you can just go buzz through at a higher speed and glean whatever the practical facts are that you need to get your talk delivered and results of high visibility and high engagement with the attendees who come to listen to you. You've got all kinds of support here with me as a speaker. And that's why you're choosing a different admin fee. I've got several to choose from that makes it very affordable. And that's why there's a tiny little admin fee for the speakers who come to this warm audience. So you understand now in the background, oh my goodness, Teddy's just losing his mind today. In the background, you've got all kinds of support that you don't have to deal with, that you don't have to manage on your own. And you will love the collaborative attitudes and the good loving that you'll find in these circles, trusted circles. So that, my friends, is what's happening in the wonderful world of Cannabis Truth right now, and me. And we're just going forward in 2025. Let's see. It's been a thrill to lean into all of this new visibility. I've got a huge new, well, not huge, but I've got a brand new team working with me. Craig, thank you so much for producing these videos for YouTube when I had to change and couldn't do it myself. I hired Craig Warmblood to do it for me. He's been remarkable. I've loved what he's helped me with and how he has up-leveled my podcast from just audio going into my 6th year of now a video podcast too on YouTube. So thank you so much for that. I can't thank Elizabeth Ocean and her husband Stephen for enough for helping me up-level my business game with their with Elizabeth's Women's Holistic Business Academy. An amazing womanly space to be in. And her husband plays tech guy for us, and he's remarkable. So it's a fabulous space where I've learned to come into my own shamanism, come into my own speakership, come into being the educator that I truly feel like I am now. And so thank you so much for that, Elizabeth and Stephen. All my darling business sisters, God, I love you so much. It's been such an amazing 6 months, and we're just going to blast into 2025. And here we go. And let's see, there was, oh my glory. I have to tell you that I wouldn't have been able to do any of this speakership without my sweet virtual assistant, Adriana Martinez. She has been an absolute angel and gift to business, everything. So thank you, darling, for helping me level up so much. It's been such a pleasure. I didn't know that working relationships could be so marvelous until I met Craig, who has truly been a mentor, and Adriana as well, who has been a darling mentor and creative genius, both of them for me. So they get me, they love me, I love them both, and this is just, a little teeny tiny bit of what's going on. I guess I got to go take care of my little viper back here, just losing his mind. We haven't been able to get out for a few days. It's been so cold up here in Michigan. And so his energy is a little pent up, and he's snapping like snapping turtle at everybody, especially with all those little bones and treats going around. You know what helps him? Music. I'm going to go help him by playing a little music so he can sing to it. Isn't that the sweetest? Anyway, I guess that's it, dear friends. Thank you so much for being a part of the Cannabis Truth Podcast for the past 6 years, and thank you for joining us in the future.
You've been listening to another Cannabis Truth Podcast with 21st century cannabis shaman Honey Smith Walls. Using cannabis mindfully as medication is a different concept in Western healthcare philosophy, specifically over the past century. There's a lot to learn and reconsider. The scientific truth of cannabis is finally getting out and is wide open for all to see at respected medical sites like the National Library of Medicine at pubmed.gov and the Journal of American Medical Association at JAMAnetwork.com. We here at the Cannabis Truth Podcast are right there in the thick of it, alongside the titans of medicine, as a fly on the wall. We are not doctors, nor did we go to medical school, but we have taken dozens of private cannabis courses and still engage in continuing education offered by expert cannabis scientists. Over the past few years, we slowly began to see and understand the bigger picture. Now we hear from people all day long about cannabis. It is so important to use verifiably safe products. The process of getting a diagnosis from your family doctor and taking your records to a cannabis specialist can lead you to the correct cannabinoid therapy for your specific issues. Otherwise, you're simply your own guinea pig looking for answers without the foundational knowledge or ability to determine your best strategy. To find a qualified cannabis expert in your area, visit cannabisclinicians.org. This is a national society of cannabis experts. Look for the link in the show notes. Unless otherwise proven by a reputable third-party lab test, please regard all street weed as contaminated. It may do grave harm to a patient with a delicate immune system who already has inflammatory issues like arthritis, IBS, fibromyalgia, or worse. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you find value and understanding through the conversations you've heard on this podcast.